And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Well, looking at today's sea ice analysis, continuing to melt out here and thin out over the Chukchi Sea and the western Arctic coast here, and also along the eastern Beaufort coast, thinning out there and on into the Mackenzie Bay area. And things will continue to do a slow dissolve here for the next several days and through the remainder of the summer, actually. And for the south coast here tomorrow, look for south winds at about 10 knots and variable winds at 10 knots for the north coast. So pretty light winds over the inside waters as well, 5 to 10 knots. And for the outlook for Thursday, we've got south winds 15 knots along the coast of Prince of Wales Island. Otherwise, light winds out of the west at 10 for the central coast, variable winds at 10 knots for the north coast, light variable winds for Lynn Canal and Passage Canal and or Stevens Passage, Lynn Canal and Stevens Passage, variable at 5, Clarence Strait southeast at 15. And for the eastern North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound, light variable winds tomorrow at 10 knots, east winds 20 knots for the western coast. Gale warnings for Kamishak Bay, east winds 35 knots, a little lighter there for the Barren Islands, but still east at 30 knots. Cook Inlet, northeast, 15 knots. And for Thursday, south to southwest breeze at 10 knots for Cook Inlet. Otherwise, lighter east winds now for the Barren Islands and Kamishak Bay at 20 knots. And variable winds continue for Prince William Sound and the eastern North Gulf Coast at about 10 knots. Otherwise, east 15 there, south of Resurrection Bay. Kodiak Island, east to southeast winds 25 knots for the day Wednesday. West-northwest at 15 or 10 to 15 knots here for the Alaska Peninsula, southeast at 20 for Bristol Bay. And for Thursday, for the Alaska Peninsula, east to southeast winds 15 to 20 knots. East winds at 20 knots for Bristol Bay, 25 knot winds out of the east and northeast for Kodiak Island. And the eastern Aleutians for a Wednesday, west to northwesterlies of 15 to 20, southwest winds 15 knots for the central Aleutians, western Aleutians 20 knot winds from the south and southwest. And for Thursday, for the western Aleutians, west-southwest winds 20 to 25 knots, Adak and Atka west at about 20, and for the eastern Aleutians, south to southeast winds 15 to 20 knots. And for the St. Matthew Island area here, north central Bering Sea, variable winds at 15 knots, northwest at 15 for the Pribilofs. Otherwise, east winds at 15 knots or 10 to 15 knots here for St. Lawrence Island and the southwest coast, while Norton Sound will have an east wind at 20. And then for Thursday, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta coast, southeast at 10 knots in the forecast. 20 knots out of the southeast here for the Kuskokwim Delta coast and the Pribilof Islands, east at 15 for St. Matthew Island. Up to the north in the Chukchi Sea, east to southeast winds at 15 knots, east winds 20 knots for the central and western Arctic coast, and a little bit breezier here on the east side for up to 25 knots, mostly from about Barter Island to Demarcation Point. And then for Thursday, east winds 15 to 20 knots all along the coastline and variable winds at 10 to 15 knots for the Chukchi Sea.